Hey there, welcome back to my kitchen. This time of year, I am doing a lot of canning, and you probably are too. And as a mom of 4 kids, I want to share with you some tips that I use to get all my canning done while having kids at home. So I've got 8 tips for you that might be helpful if you've got young children and a lot of canning to do this summer. So let's get into the tips. The first tip is to set reasonable goals. When involving children in the process, short and sweet is the best. Now, this is going to depend on the ages of your children and the attention span of your children and how safe the general atmosphere is for them to be helping you. But pick only 1 to 2 canning projects to work on in a day. It's tempting to just get it all done within a weekend. It might be more helpful to pick 1 or 2 projects and spend 2 to 3 hours in the kitchen and working on that and then picking it up another day. You can also just pick canning projects that are shorter and more succinct in general if you've got kids at home. And so we love doing refrigerator pickles. This is a really fun project to help have the kids help with, or the home canned tomatoes require very little effort on the front end, just a long processing time. And so the actual hands-on time with the children is very short. And so think through those canning projects. What can you do with the produce that's a realistic goal with children? The next tip is include them in the process. If you're homeschooling, this is a great opportunity to give them some hands-on experience, and kids generally want to help. They're excited to be with you if they're young children, and if they're willing to help, have them come in a safe location and help you in some way, even if it's just sorting the silverware. If you know what I mean. They love to be in the kitchen with you and helping you. The next tip is to make it educational. So we're always looking for ways to educate our children in a new way, and there's a lot of science that is involved in canning and nutrition involved in canning. So every activity is fair game to be counted as school. The history of canning can be explored, the science behind microorganisms and the math that's involved in the recipe measurements can all be turned into a lesson. So depending on the age of your child, you can have them write a journal entry on their experience with you. So there are so many opportunities here that it's worth going that little bit extra to make it educational for them. In fact, I just recently did a video about homeschooling for homesteaders. If you're doing both, I have some tips in there that help us homesteaders get our homeschooling and our homesteading tasks done with our children alongside. Now, if your children are not going to be in the kitchen with you, or they are, but sometimes they lose interest halfway along the way, have some activities ready for them. Our children like to free play in the yard, but we also like to provide them with some new activities, especially if I have a lot to get done. So not requiring that children participate encourages them to like it more in the future. No one wants to have bad memories about me being made to do something that was uninteresting. So if you have young children, you can buy simple things like brand new bubble wands and send them outside, and it will keep them busy. Or you could encourage them to do chores if they're bored. And I have a free printable for Homestead Kid Chores that I will leave down linked in the description box below. You could also just set up a table with Play-Doh or coloring, or have them write in their journal. Next thing we do is just talk about your plans with the food with your kids. One of the most frequent questions I get in our house is, what's for dinner? So along with that, what are you making? And you can talk about how this ingredient is getting turned into this product, which might give them some different ideas when they're going to the grocery store, knowing what ingredients go into these store-bought products. You could also ask your child their opinions on how we could use this in the future. Now, this is probably my favorite tip and something I learned the hard way. But now, on canning days, especially if they are heavy canning days, I skip making other meals. I'll pull out one of our freezer meals, or we'll have other plans to not have to cook 3 meals a day as well as canning. It just became too much. And so on the days that I fail to plan for other meals, I feel a lot more tired keeping up with the regular cooking on top of the canning. But just make it a plan so that you know the canning is all I have to do today. The next tip I have to say, and that is to use caution when canning with kids. You're dealing with boiling water, and if a child is in the kitchen helping you and they pull a pot down, it's just, my mother instincts just feel like I have to put this in here, to use extreme caution when canning with kids. So there are knives and hot burners and steam, and especially if you're using a pressure cooker. That's probably not a very fun tip, but that one my conscience just wants to reiterate. And the last tip is also a great option if your children are very young, or you just want some alone time in the kitchen, and that's to seek childcare on canning day. I think lining up someone to help you watch the children so you can just get in the zone and get in the kitchen and do some work, then that's a really good option as well. Especially maybe you're a beginner canner and you really want to focus on what you're doing, then having the children out of the kitchen until you get your feet up underneath you can be very helpful. If you prefer the written form, I have a blog post that I will leave in the description box below, and I will see you next time.